What up, Facebook Live family? It's Elliot Andre from Connected Roots again. The head therapist is here today to interview my boy, Iskon Rawa. And before we get started, I want you all to listen to this unbelievable Modern Shaman play a song for us. Wow. I just feel like a weight was lifted off my shoulders right there. That was quite impressive. Thank you so much for sharing that. Could you give us kind of an introduction to what that song meant, and then tell us who you are and what brought you to your space in shamanistic practice?
So for me, what that song meant is so much of the way the shaman practices and lives life is through ceremony. So we've opened up, our ceremony, or opened up this conversation with the right energy and the right balance. My name is Iskon Rawa. I'm a modern day shaman and wisdom keeper. I walk with an Andean tradition and the tradition of the jungle from Peru, along with like multiple other medicine practices, traditions, and lineages that I'm learning.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. It's really cool to see you in that space and in the transformation that you've come through just in the last couple of years. I've known you for a while, and it's really cool to kind of see where you're at and how you've accomplished so much. So really want people to know a little bit more about you, what makes you, different than other shamans out there, as well as, really kind of broad introduction of like what that looks like for you.
I think for me, what kind of makes me differentiates me a bit from other shamans is I had spent my whole life studying different forms of wisdom and knowledge. So even prior to doing shamanism, I was a social studies teacher, I was a language arts teacher, and all of that is interconnected. But also with the tradition of ceremony, just the lineage and legacy of hip-hop. Hip-hop is such a ceremonial music, and it acts in a ceremonial form for people, especially when people play that music to invoke or awaken an energy in them, or to transport to another realm, or provide a sort of motivation. And hip-hop history, being from the Bronx, the DJ was the shaman. It was the DJ's job to get everybody going and everybody in the right spot, and it's for them to be able to dance away the problems,
Totally.
or sing away the problems,
Yeah.
or move away the problems.
Absolutely.
You know, just simply by being present for ceremony, right? You don't need a prescription.
Right.
You don't need to do a search.
No.
You just need to be. You just need to be present and be who you are and what you're doing. And
totally.
I feel like with the medicines I carry, I honor that tradition still, because the whole thing is about not, this whole practice is not so much about changing yourself as it is being yourself and transforming yourself.
Got it. Cool. So I think you touched on a really incredible thing that I think a lot of people can connect with, and this idea of ceremony and music. With that song you just played, seriously, I don't know what that looks like because I've never heard it before, but in terms of like a traditional shamanistic ritual or practice, like what other songs or what other rituals are put into something like that?
So depending on the tradition, like in my tradition, the Indian tradition uses flute and guitar. I mean, all the traditions use instruments, but the Indian tradition like really concentrates on the flute, and the jungle tradition concentrates on ikaros, or medicine songs or music that like are a sacred technology that helps facilitate that person's healing.
Okay. Was that an ikaro you just played?
No, it was just an opening song. It's such a thing where, for me, like, one of the main practices of being a shaman is staying in balance. And so, like, it's not so much about being in your mind. It's about, if I honor this energy and I bring this energy forth, it's going to put everything in the right place. All I have to do is trust that. And that, like, sort of thinking is very, in shamanism and the cultures I practice, is very feminine. It's not it's not like, oh, well, now I need to do this, or now I need to do that. It's, I need to honor nature, I need to honor myself, I need to honor this tradition. Therefore, by doing these things will come, you know, to come to pass or come to flow.
Got it. I mean, when you say feminine, my first mind thinks of so many people that I've worked with in my own kind of journey in mental health. And I feel like as men, and I don't want to be general, but a lot of the times this idea of femininity is kind of a scary thing. And I want to just say right then and right now that that's not what we're going for. Femininity should be expressed and should be a part of us. And I want Iskon to kind of talk to that idea of femininity in his own practice or just in the shamanistic realm in general.
Yeah, it's such a thing that in these traditions, you know, it's acknowledged and has been acknowledged, you know, ancestrally, that we come from the mother, and like we get nourishment from the mother, and we walk on the back of Pachamama, and it's such a thing where, like, when we honor that conception of the world, when we honor we're beings just like everything else here, and that the earth does not belong to us, but we belong to it, it starts to put us in right relationship. You know, and I think, like, with so much thinking that's oriented like in a masculine manner is about like dominating nature, or
taking it and like not giving anything back, kind of in there again.
Versus like, this is something that's helping me grow, this is something that's helping me understand myself, so I'm going to do what I can for it, or I'm going to do what I can so someone else can experience this magic, this wisdom, this medicine.
Got it. That's so incredible to bring all that in and like think about it in a more holistic way, especially with this idea of the masculine and feminine. I think that's really cool. If you could, I think a lot of people out there are like, what the hell is a shaman? Because when Iskon first told me that a couple years ago, I was like, yo, dude, like, I don't know, what does that even mean? So if you could, please let everybody, you know, and our Facebook friends know, like, thumbs up, like, if you're kind of confused in the way that I might have been. If you give us an idea of like the brief history of shamanistic practices, how you got into it, and then kind of where your path is leading you now in terms of your own growth, business, and in that regard, that'd be great.
So I think it's easy to go into what shamanism is not, because it's very like broad term, you know.
Absolutely.
And so like what it's not is a religion. What it's not is a form of spirituality. It's not a philosophy. It's inclusive of all of those things. Like, really like the heart of most practices is honoring the relationship with the earth, honoring the relationship with the cosmos, honoring the relationship with your entire self, your ancestry, your lineage, your culture, what you believe. And most importantly, like what you know is true in the depths of your heart. And so shamans in general work with like what would be considered like mystical spiritual traditions. So there's such a thing like one of the parts of honoring the feminine aspect of yourself is trusting your intuition. It's listening to that silent voice, that silent message. It's about self-care and the rituals that you keep. Now, for actual shamans, like it really just depends on the tradition that you're in. Like some shamans work with weather, like the Mongolians with like thunder, lightning, all of that stuff. Some shamans are just shamanic practitioners, like some Westerners who engage in like plant medicine or do drum ceremonies, drum ceremony circle. Some in the traditions that I practice, we focus on our relationships with the Apus and the water and the sun and all of the land around us. But it's really like kind of what is that inner call like for you? So where would you find yourself in like a spiritual tradition? So for some people who like to teach, they usually are presupposed to wisdom. For some people who like to move their bodies, yoga speaks
absolutely.
And so it's important to realize, even though like we think in separation, these elements are active in us all the time. And are seeking some form of resolution. And that's how like my path started. It was like I was looking for like what was going to be the thing that not only allowed me to succeed and but allowed my community to succeed. And so like as my journey evolved, it wasn't so much that I became a shaman. It was more that I remembered that was why I was here. And all of those things that happened in my life were stepping stones to get there, and very important lessons or healing or more insight or more wisdom.
Absolutely. I think you hit on like a really cool moment where, you know, anybody and everybody can represent themselves kind of in a shamanistic kind of way, and what you're describing, like yoga and movement. And I think for like the mental health practitioners, it's like giving ourselves to listen and really be a part of that space of taking that in and reflecting in that, and then being able to talk about that, you know, in a very constructive manner and what have you. But
it's, I think like we all get concerned with the mask that we put on.
Absolutely.
And like in reality, we all just want to meet you. So you have to meet you, and you got to get good at being you. And it's such a thing where like as you honor that person who you are, it expands, because it's not a mask, it's an essence.
And I think a lot of our clients out there, right, can really relate to how they might feel like a mask is always covering their face. And I think what Iskon is saying is so powerful in regards of you need to work on you to work on that mask to then be part of something else. And we preach that in the mental health world all the time. Like you come first, and then you can start to figure out what else is in your life and in your path.
I think another thing that these traditions offer, and something that really helped me in my own transformation, is they offer insights into the things that we're suffering with that we do not understand or cannot conceive or have accepted as normal based on a trauma or something that's happened in the past. And so like these practices help us awaken to and become aware of what's really going on inside of us.
100%.
From our own perspective. Right. Facilitate that.
And it almost like brings up the shit that like we don't want to bring in. And that's scary, right? And that's totally normal to feel scared. So honestly, I would want to know if you could express or explain in a situation or an experience with a client that you might have had where that might have been an issue that you worked on and were able to get through it.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize like any form of transformation calls up that which does not want to be transformed.
Really?
You know, and it's an energy, right? Sometimes you get a headache, sometimes your heart hurts, sometimes you use the bathroom, sometimes you slur, you know, and so I think like, let's see, think of like an insight or a story that I could really hone in on that.
Sure. Or anything else, or any experience you've had with somebody.
I think like, even to like talk about the energy really quick is like, after we feel that energy, we engage in all of these patterns to either resolve it or to get away from it. And so like, I think one person I worked with had an issue with like their self-perception. So they'd be like, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve that. Or like, everyone in the world is like against me. Right. And so like, the way a shaman would look at it is like, that's what they perceive. So that's what's occurring in the story and the drama of their life.
Kind of like their narrative almost in that regard.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's a story, right, that you live and you're the main character. And working with this individual, what it really came down to is like, they had like a father figure who was absent in their life. Yeah. And so because that person was absent, they didn't feel a sense of direction. They took direction from everywhere. Got it. But on the other end of the spectrum, when you take direction from everywhere, you want people to stop giving you. Right. It's like, leave me alone. I think I got this. Yeah. And so like the insider transformation that came out of that is after that person sat and did ceremonial medicine, they were really able to begin designing and constructing their own life. Yeah. Yes, with issues, less with challenges, but the key component was that an energy had shifted. Sure. And so like, it's the concentration on the shift, because like so much about these practices and the way we think about it is if you do your 50%, the universe is going to do its 50%. Got it. That totally makes sense. Like if you have this intention and whether you're taking medicine or not, practicing, you have this intention and you walk forward with it and you do the best that you can, you're going to manifest that intention. Totally. And what it does is it puts you in the place of empowerment versus saying like, I need this person to say yes. Right. I need this specific thing to happen before I do this, this or that. Absolutely. It pulls you out of the story. Right. And helps you to start like perceiving what is my story. What is my story. That real big piece of self-reflection is so powerful. And once people start to get attuned to that, I think their lifestyle, their relationship status, a lot of those things, tend to shift, which is, really impressive in that regard. Yeah, and like it helps us work with life to figure out what is the right path. Like when I left teaching in terms of my own like initiation in these practices, I was really sad and really upset because I had put 5 years into becoming the best. It's a lot of time that I could. Yeah, and loved the kids to death. Sure, but like what my own path was telling me was like, there's something better for you. Yeah, something else out there, absolutely. You're going to have to change. You're going to have to grow. And, like I struggled with my own attachment to it. Sure. Because I felt like this was the trajectory that was going to help me succeed based on what everyone else wanted. Deep down in the core of my life, I knew that wasn't true. Right. But I knew that I could manage it and it was working. And that was like one of the first insights I had, is like, you don't do things because they work. You do things because you love them. Right, absolutely. You're passionate or you have drive to do that. Yeah. Yeah, and you can add your own element into that. Yeah. And what I realized was like, I had kept fitting myself into these different containers. Sure. I think a lot of people struggle with that. And that brings up a big point. A lot of stuff that connected roots that we do working with clients. Iskon, could you, talk to how shamanism and mental health kind of play hand in hand together? Well, I can speak directly to the nature of my own traditions, and sure. That's where my insight comes from. Totally. Like the way the shaman would perceive like mental health is like there's a bad energy or there's like a low vibration that is in you.
Got it.
And that vibration is not you. And
got it. Sure. Okay.
And right, like it's teaching you something, but it's not like you personally. It's depersonalized. It's just a part of the human condition.
Got it.
Like fear belongs to none of us.
Yeah.
It's just a part of being human.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
like ingrained in us almost. Yeah.
It immediately discharges the idea that you are afraid.
Right.
Versus I am experiencing fear right now.
Right.
And helps you to start focusing on like these emotions and how you're perceiving them and what they are teaching you. And so instead of making like it an enemy or having to convert yourself, you're going deeper into awareness. And I think the connection between like, you know, plant medicines, which I use, like ayahuasca and, you know, mushrooms, and mental health that happens in the psychotherapeutic field is that these teacher plants or these teacher spirits help facilitate us making that transformation.
Absolutely.
In a very grounded and rooted way versus like a clinical way where it's like I am stepping into, just like going to yoga, I am stepping into this container or this environment or in this realm, and when I complete this, like I'll be on to the next step or the next phase of my path. And that's way different than, you know, the way we've been taught through Western analysis. Which is like, I'm going to go in there with a screwdriver and
fix it all.
And fix it all. And then, like, I don't like it, so then I pull out the hammer. And start smashing it over. And it's very, like, and like where the mental health component comes in, I think, like, this is where mental health is shifting. It is total. Like
holistic.
It's total. We're talking about all of you. We're talking about what you think, what you eat, what you feel, who you're with. And we know that, and this is what these traditions focus on, what you are experiencing, even though it is a universal experience, it is personalized to you and your life and your story.
Absolutely. And I think if we were to bring more of that into the mental health world to kind of destigmatize what mental health looks like, I think a lot of people would be a lot more interested and intrigued by what Iskon and I have to offer. But with that stigma being said, it's still a really tough place to kind of get over that hump in regards to what that looks like.
Yeah, and there's empowerment there as well. Like, the magic is in your story. The medicine is in your story. We're not throwing you away as a person. We're not assigning something to deal with your symptom condition. We're going to the core. And helping you, like, try to figure out how you can integrate certain things and grow a new person out of that. Naturally. Yes.
Naturally. And that whole idea of naturally, if you don't mind speaking a little bit more to, because, you know, I think we're in a society now where we're like a lot of natural is kind of overthought or pushed aside by a lot of the pharmaceutical in terms of like clients using medication or things like that. And I know we were talking about this before we get started about mushrooms being legalized in Colorado, marijuana and all those things. So if you could speak to that and kind of talk to our Facebook friends out there, what you may have used or what your take is on something like that, it'd really be cool to know.
I think for me, like, I go back to what some of me and my colleagues believe, which is like, you are a free person. So like, you know what medicine is going to work best for you. Or you know how to research that medicine and find a reliable practitioner with integrity. And I think one of the reasons why there's such a call for these natural indigenous medicines is because of the side effects of allopathic medicine and the damages that people have experienced.
The quick fix drugs,
you know, where people speak about at a deeper level when they're open about changes in their nature, changes in their character, changes in their relationship, not being able to concentrate, not feeling like the medicine is getting to the core of the issue, or feeling like it makes them foggy or unclear, or feeling like they've been named like a diseased person, which is like
or put in a box, a label, container, all the same.
And what we have found, even though like more research obviously needs to be done, is like the psychotherapeutics effects of these medicines go far beyond use.
Yeah,
and they
totally
create long-term and help facilitate long-term changes.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's about time to wrap up. Really appreciate you all joining us today. If you want to figure out or find out how to get in contact with Iskon, here he is. He's going to plug himself right now and give you what's up.
Yeah, if you would like to contact me, my email is wayofthebronx@gmail.com.
I love that.
I really encourage, anyone to start doing your research about what these medicines are and how they can possibly help you, but also in general to start looking more into yourself, seeing what do you want and what actually calls to you, and how can this sort of work facilitate you taking a further step, on your path.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Head's Therapist is out. Iskon, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you spreading your knowledge and giving people, a little bit of wisdom and insight into what shamanistic practices look like these days. In the meantime, catch you all later. Have a great day.